Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. I know you can see the shirt, so you know where we're going. It is very dark. It is very early. It is very much a Wednesday morning, which means there's only one thing that the old Seaman is watching. That's over on Disney+. But before we get there, man, I got an important question to ask you. You had a tough week? Did your week drag? I mean, after whatever the beginning of my week was and where I disappeared on the channel for a bit, it was a rough run for 3 or 4 days. But I tell you what, man, if you need a little brightening in your dark world, well, this might be the episode for you. What am I talking about? Why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat. We are getting ready to dive in spoiler-free into Marvel Studios' What If, Episode 7, What If Thor was an only child? And oh man, that is a question that I am glad What If asked, because I had an absolute ball this morning. This episode was so much fun. It reminded me a lot of the T'Challa as Star-Lord episode, where it's like you could take a concept or take a character and change a thing and just have a good time in what you're doing. And yeah, there could be a threat, so to speak, or at least an antagonist, someone to root against in whatever's going on in the story, but you're just able to have a lot of fun. And I mean, mild spoilers if you did not know that this is where this episode was going to go. I'll maybe cover your ears real quick, but Party Thor is I mean, how could you not have fun with Party Thor? I guess you can take him off now, I won't say it anymore. But this version of Thor, the Thor that we get, that is an only child, he's a blast. And what I think is really clever this week from AC Bradley and her writing team is that, once again, it's that having that firm grasp on the MCU and all of its characters, and understanding the characters, and this is something that I didn't even think about previously, but understanding the characters to where they are in the point of the timeline, right? Depending on where you snatch a character from to tweak something and have a domino, effect follow, could really change how that character changes. So if you go back to that original Thor, and you took away the idea of him having a brother in Loki and getting into all the brotherly mischief and learning all the brotherly lessons that Thor would learn, and inherently just sort of gaining the characteristics to be a great leader by being a good big brother to Loki, it makes sense that this is the Thor that we get. I think there is something to be said about the character, in the sense that when we first met Thor, he was very different than the Thor that we currently have. It took the MCU a little while to realize that, if you have Chris Hemsworth playing Thor, you should tap into Chris Hemsworth to elevate that character. And it started to happen in the Avengers movies first, and eventually Taika Waititi got his hands on Thor and turned him into the most fun that we've probably had in the MCU. But the type of fun we have with the Thor that we know versus the type of fun that is being had in this episode is very different. And it's not just because Loki wasn't around, it's because of where AC Bradley decides to pluck the character from. And it's one of those things where it's if you had taken the first Thor, the first version of Hemsworth we got in the MCU, and told him to do all the things that he does now as Thor, but playing that version of the character, that's who we would get here. And it makes a ton of sense. I mean, if you think back to the first Thor and the way he was, I mean, it really feels like AC Bradley's inspiration around this episode is that first introduction to Thor, when we see him go to Jotunheim and then we see him come back to Asgard. If that guy turned out to be the dude that we have in this episode, or if that guy was the guy who made the decision, or that's the guy where you changed, something in his timeline, what we result in is perfect. It is so spot on for what the character should be. And like I said, this episode, you're really just able to have a good time. And the other thing that I think Bradley and her team do really well this week is that it's one thing to have a good time, but you need to create some kind of stakes. You know what I mean? Like you need to create something that is going to produce urgency and elicit something out of our character. And the thing that AC Bradley decides to pull the string on of like, this is the rabbit hole we're going to go down, this is what we need, and the decisions that she makes to create that like antagonist for us, or that, you know, that weight that we need in the episode. I just thought it was genius. I mean, I thought the character they picked to be the antagonist for this episode for Thor was perfect. Like, it was spot on, and we have so much fun with it, both from the story and the performances and the visuals. Like, the visualizations of what the antagonist for Thor in this party world is fantastic. And how Bradley and her team tie all of that together at the end, pure genius, man. Like, I guess you could like equate this to like Thor's like college party, you know, like this is like, you know, if you were going down the routes of Old School, or if you wanted to go back even further than that, you know, Animal House. Like, this is Thor's version of that stuff. And the beat that you get at the end of the episode that kind of wraps everything up, oh, it's the perfect thing that you need to create like some sort of weight or urgency in the story and in its characters. And I just thought Bradley and her team crushed this week. I mean, the way that she understands the MCU is just so much fun to watch. And then, I mean, performance-wise, I don't want to give too much away, but yes, Mr. Chris Hemsworth is back. I mean, literally not too long ago just finished the next Thor movie, so no shocker that he's back. And there are other characters from his world that make their way here, and we pretty much get all but one voice that is a voice that we would assume that we would hear. And it's a change that I think was kind of interesting. It's one of the few things this week that really took me out of it. Like, the character design and the voice were very different than what the character looked like and sounded like in the movies. But Hemsworth, I mean, he's so good. It's one of those few characters where I'm like, it at least to get this version of the character, it'd be very hard to go somewhere that isn't Chris Hemsworth. I mean, his voice, much like, you know, Chadwick Boseman and T'Challa, is so like attached to that character. Like, when I got the Avengers game, like, I struggled for a little bit playing the Thor character because he didn't quite sound like Hemsworth. Now, granted, you could totally, I think, replace, you know, down the line, if you kept making Thor stories, you could bring in a different voice actor. It would be fine. But having the actor, if you have them available, it's a really, really big plus. And Hemsworth, you could tell he had a ball. Like, it's one of those things, like, if he wasn't still under contract at Marvel, like, I think he would have just come in here to have a good time, man, because that seems like the kind of guy he is, and that's the type of performance that he gives you. Like, you could tell he was having a blast. And everybody that they brought in and around Thor in this episode, it just felt like everybody was having a good time this episode. And once again, the animation is stellar. I mean, the specifically like the wide shots, you know, because Thor can move really, really quick through the sky. So some of the shots that you see him as he's moving across, you know, the globe in the battle that he has to have, like, it just really, really, like, good stuff on the visual side, and the animation that they bring to the antagonist inside of the episode, also really, really nice stuff, man. Like I said, they love to play with shadows and lighting, and what you're able to do in and around some of those sequences with that shadowing and lighting, just really, really popped. And like I said, this week was just a sit back, kick back, have a good time. I mean, it seems everybody that was involved probably had fun with this episode, and it was just a lot of fun to watch, like the hijinks and things that go on, and the people. That was the thing that I found most interesting, is like, you can bring the party to Midgard, but who's showing up, and the people and characters that Bradley and her team bring into this episode, certainly allowed for there to be a lot of fun to be had. So if you can't tell, I really dug this week's episode of What If. So let's not waste any more time. That's all the non-spoiler things I can say. I think if I say anything else, I might spoil something from this episode. So let's get the old Sea Maniacs up. There they are. And like I said, I think once again, Bradley and her team picked the perfect time and place to make the change that they need to make for the character that we have, which is Thor. It allows them to have a lot of fun in the way in which they bring in, someone for Thor to go up against and some sort of, weight to this episode, something for there to be some urgency towards. I just thought it was super, super clever. I thought the voice cast and everybody that comes in was fantastic, but of course, Hemsworth is the standout of the episode, and, once again is one of those characters where, yes, you can replace these people with different voice actors, but when you have them, it definitely elevates the material. And something like this, an episode like this, it's so in line with who Chris Hemsworth is, it really would have hurt to not have him, but we do have him, we have some of his friends, and everybody does a great job. Animation is, again, stellar this week, and for me, this is probably one of my top 4 episodes of the entire season. So, for the old Seaman, What If Episode 7, What If Thor was an only child? I'm going 4.2. I'm matching it up with the Killmonger episode. Like I said, it is one of my 4 favorites, and it's right there with Killmonger after the Doctor Strange and the T'Challa episodes. Like, a lot of fun. I enjoyed it as much as I was hoping to enjoy it and kind of expected to enjoy this. Like, anytime you bring Thor into the world, I just get excited because Chris Hemsworth has turned that character into something that is so enjoyable to watch on screen. And even the animation version of Chris Hemsworth, it's the same deal, man. I have such a good time with Thor anytime he's on screen. I had a great time this morning, so 4.2 for me. But now the question is, what did you think, man? What are your thoughts on this week's episode? If you've watched it, keep it spoiler-free, but let me know, did this version of Thor work for you? Did you like the characters that showed up in this episode? Did you like the way that they, were able to bring something for Thor to have to deal with? Did you like what that twist was and that angle was by the end of the episode? Anything you've got, if you've seen it, I want to know. But if you haven't seen it, and you come here for the non-spoiler because you're going to watch the episode later, what are you looking forward to with this Thor story? I assume most of us know where we're going. We're having a good time. So what do you think? What do you hope to get out of an episode like this one? And if you haven't been watching What If and you stumbled into this video and watched it all the way down, does this intrigue you? Does this make you want to dive in? Are you down to watch, Hemsworth having a good time in the world of animation? Anything you got, good, bad, indifferent. What If Episode 7, What If Thor was an only child, goes down below in the comments section. Look forward to talking to you guys down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the Seaman, we only got 2 episodes left. And starting to feel like that event, that thing that we're waiting for that's going to bring these characters together from different universes, I think it might be showing up next week. So if you want to be here for all of that, you just like anytime I'm talking movies, TV, doing trailer reactions, you just want to show this guy a little love and support, well, and hey, come join Seamaniac Nation. Real easy to do. Just jump over there, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts. Until next time, for the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down, I've been the Seaman. I'm signing off. Peace. Oh, hey, what's going on? You must be sticking around because you're looking for more content featuring this guy. Well, guess what? You're in the right place. You can check out more videos right here and right here. And if you have and you want to come join that Seamaniac Nation, you can hit that subscribe right over there.